Good evening, and welcome to the Let's Talk Destiny talk show. This month, as you know, I have been honoring and celebrating fatherhood and the value of having fathers in our lives. And tonight, I have a very special guest with me. She is she's hilarious, and she's also such a blessing to me. And so tonight, we're going to be talking about being the daughter of a preacher, um, and honoring and celebrating your father. But when your father is a preacher, it puts you in a whole different category. And so tonight we're going to talk about that and the joys of being a PK and the things that can create problems for you down the road. So tonight I want to welcome to our platform Mrs. Ronisha Ryder.
Hello, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm honored to be a part of the show. So thank you, Jamie, for
You're
first
welcome.
thinking of me and asking me. I like to pass out when you ask me.
I know, because I was thinking of I want to hit every aspect of fatherhood this month, and so I've already had one gentleman who is a father, a single father. So he talked about his from his perspective, and then I have a young lady who's coming on later in the month who actually did not have a good relationship with her father until in the latter years, and so she's going to talk about how that impacted her life. And then I said, there's something else I need to address here. And then it dawned on me, I need to talk to a daughter of a preacher because our life experience is so different than everybody else's because people expect so much from us.
Right.
And they won't let us just be children. They just, want us to be these little perfect angels while they themselves are raising hoodlums. They want they want us to be angels. So we're going to talk about that tonight. Okay, first of all, for the audience, those who will be watching in later on, tell us, what is your father's name?
So my father's name is Bishop George Copeland.
And he pastors here in Salisbury.
Yes, he pastors the church, United Faith Churches of Deliverance. We have a church in Salisbury, a church in Only, Virginia, and then we have a church in Millsboro, Delaware.
And there
So,
will be many people who will be listening to us that will know who your father is, and
mhm,
some who will not, like from way out somewhere on our rock, probably. But
right,
I just wanted to make sure that we clarified who your father was. Now, let me
right.
ask you this question, Renisha. When you were growing up, were you ever teased or mocked by classmates because your father was a preacher?
Um, no, I was not because he was a preacher, but I was pretty much I'm not gonna say mocked, but well, maybe I was mocked because I couldn't do things that other little kids
Yeah.
could do because he was a preacher. So
Right.
so they say that certain things I couldn't do. So that was a big thing, like, well, you can't go here. Aha, well, we're going out here, we're going to the movies, we're going this, that, and the other. We know you can't go, so we're not even gonna ask you.
Exactly. And it's funny because there is a major difference between our ages.
Uh-huh.
You are Bishop Copeland's baby girl,
Yes.
and some of what you're saying still was happening when I was a child. So I kind of
Mhm.
thought by the time they got around to your age, they would loosen up a little bit. But
Yeah.
if it wasn't church related, James Green wasn't letting us do it. And then if we happened to sneak and do something, you can be sure it was going to be a part of Sunday sermon. Um,
Right.
and so, yeah, I totally understand that. And then there were the times when you'd hear comments like, I remember when it was time to order our class rings for senior class rings. And I remember a guy saying, I know we were looking at the catalog, and he says, I know you're going to pick out the nicest ring in there because I know Reverend Green's going to get that money out of the offering and pay for your ring. Like, what?
Uh-huh.
Like,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
each,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
so there's some things like you just didn't, because they're just our parents, period. We know what they do as far as being preachers or whatever, but to us, they're just mom and dad. And
Right.
so other people sometimes make it more challenging for us than it needs to be, because it's challenging enough to know you can't go nowhere but church.
Right.
And sometimes I'd go to school on Monday, make up stuff that I had done on a weekend, knew I was in church all
We
weekend, 3 times on Sunday,
right, right.
but I didn't want to tell anybody that. So let me ask you this. What were some of the most positive things that you remember about being a preacher's daughter growing up and even now?
Um, I'm gonna say, I am the youngest girl. I'm the baby girl, but to a lot of people, I am the youngest of all, but I'm not. I'm just the baby girl. And I would say that all of our experience with being a pastor's child is different. The perspective is different. So with me, I think the part that I enjoyed is that my dad, he was very protective over me. He still is a little bit, but he's extremely overprotective of me because I'm the baby girl. I'm his baby.
Yes,
So it's like he was like my hero.
yes,
Anything that I wanted, I needed, I could always run to my dad. He would try his best to protect me from church folks, from the world, anything that would hurt me,
right,
he would go far and beyond to try to keep that, from affecting me,
absolutely.
So it was just like that was the part that was like, wow, yeah, because my dad gonna take care of that.
Yes, exactly. Like, don't mess with me because my dad got that, Yeah, I totally understand that. And
Yeah.
okay, here's another thing I wanted to ask you, because I have two sisters,
Mhm.
but I often wonder, and I see this with other fathers that I talk to, but I also often wonder when it comes to fathers who are preachers. Do you think your father fathered his sons differently than his daughters?
If you ask him, he'll probably say no.
Right, right, right.
But and I want to say I think I would say yes, um, because we're his girls. y- you know his job is to protect us from the unknown. His
Exactly.
job is to protect us from the wolves that we didn't see or knew about. So with the boys, it's a little more stretch there, a little more length.
Yes, yes.
Girls, a little tight grip.
Tight grip, like you almost couldn't breathe. Like, oh my God, I can't breathe. Give me a break. I remember one time putting on some lipstick for, I don't even know what I put it on for, but anyway, it got back to my dad that I had put this lipstick on in school, and he talked about it for weeks. Every time he got the microphone in his hand, he talked about it. I'm thinking, oh my God, I know good and well that is not what God told you to preach about. Like, seriously, have you been spending time studying? What are you doing? That's what I was thinking. Of course, I wasn't crazy enough to say it. But
Right. Right.
it's like if we didn't do things, sometimes I wonder, do we even have a sermon? Dear God. And because we were girls, everybody came around, he was giving them the evil eye. Um, and like, what do you want? Why, and he wouldn't even say it. And he just would look at them and they'd be like, okay, talk to you later. But he was very protective of us. And even when he died, when my father died, I was almost 50 years old. And I still say that he was as protective of me at that point when he died as he was when I was a little girl. And I just think that's what fathers do regardless.
Mhm.
And then because they are preachers, they think they have they're being exposed to so much evil in the world. So they think that they know everything about what could hurt their babies.
Right.
So, they're even sometimes a little more protective than they need to be. So I just, I wanted to ask you who thought he fathered you all differently. Now let me ask you this question. You are the baby girl in the family.
Mhm.
How do you see, what differences do you see in how your parents raised your brothers and sisters versus by the time you came along? Because my sister always brags about, um, well, I couldn't go to the prom. I couldn't go to any dances at the school. I couldn't, literally, if it wasn't church related, forget it. Friday nights, you couldn't go to the football games that were had out high every Friday night. Why? Because we were in church on Friday night. So if you went anywhere, you had to sneak and do it and make up some story. But then by the time Kelly was like ready to go to the junior prom, I think it was, um, she was allowed to go. I
Right.
was like, what the Jimmy crack corn is this? Like, if it was wrong, it was wrong. Why she get to go? So can you think of anything like that where your father changed the rules?
Yes, and my sister, my oldest sister, tells me this to this day that by the time me and Joshua came along, it's like mom and dad just got senile. Like they don't, like they don't remember no rules and regulations.
Exactly, exactly.
And I'm just like, I don't know.
It ain't
So
my fault.
it's not my fault. We were the last two to show up. So my older
Exactly.
siblings, they would say that, things changed when we came, um, and I guess, yeah, I guess things became a little bit more. I guess they got more legal with us, as we came along. Because when my sister talked, she has the same similar story that you were sharing. Me, not so. If we wanted, if we wanted to, now we always asked mom though. We always skated around dad. We didn't really,
Yes,
we
I
didn't really
totally
like.
get it.
Yeah, we always go to mom, and then she will always say, "Go to your dad, ask your dad."
And then when you go to dad, you be like, I talked to mom and she told me to come and talk to you because it's kind of like a cushion. Like, I've already had this discussion with mom. So,
Yes, yes. So I think by the time I came along, he was trying to lose, just trying, just a tatty bit.
yeah,
Be a little bit more loose and a little bit more free as far as me be able to at least go to the mall.
right.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh my
We're
God,
not even gonna
yes.
talk about we're not even gonna talk about like, the movies and stuff. At least
Yeah,
just go to the mall. Can I meet my friends at the arcade game?
right, right. In the food court,
In
something.
the food court? There's a
Can we
lot of
just
people
buy a
there.
pretzel and sit down and talk for God's sake? Oh my God.
So by the time we came along, he kind of tried to like loosen the grip just a tiny bit.
Yeah. I
He
think
was still
they
that
they
protector.
learn, they mellow a little bit as they get older because
Yeah,
they really want to do what they think is right. And they really
right,
want to do what they
right,
think is best for us. And they want us to do what's right.
right.
But sometimes that squeezing thing causes you to try things that you may not have tried if you
Hmm.
weren't being squeezed.
Right.
And I remember I shared this a lot when I talked to young women. When I left, graduated from high school, I went to college just to get away from home. Like I didn't
Mhm.
even want to go to college. I knew I could not go to church another night. I was like, I had to get away from here because I'm sick of going to church 7 days a week. I mean, every night it was something.
Yeah.
And like, you can't stay home and do your homework. You bring them books to church, do your homework in that pew. Like, oh my holy God. So when
Back
I
to you.
graduated, I went to college and let me tell you, girl, I had no intention of going to class. I just used that as an excuse to get away from home. And within 3 months of me being there, it was like, you turn a child loose in a candy store and
Mhm.
you say, just get a Tootsie Roll. And it's
Mhm.
not going to happen,
Right.
especially when they had never had candy before. So
Right.
it was like I was exposed to stuff that I heard about, but I had never been allowed to do it. And so I just
Mhm.
did everything. And so everything somebody asked me to try, I tried it. And I
Yeah.
think that's one reason why I'm so supportive of people who, you know, they may have grown up in the church and even some right now that are Christians or whatever. And sometimes I think they forget some of the things that they did before they became Christians. I think
Mhm.
this like yapping at people and screaming at people about what they're doing. I think some of them forget You know, you weren't born a Christian, you weren't born saved. And I remember having some conversations when I had my son, and having a child out of wedlock when
Mhm.
you're a preacher's kid, that's a whole
Mhm.
nother show.
Whole nother topic.
But
Oh.
the thing about it is the church people that come at you the hardest, that come for your throat the hardest, the people that should know the most about forgiveness and grace and mercy, they're the ones that come at you the hardest. And even in that situation, my father was very protective of me.
Yeah.
And he put a wall around me, and he was like, "You're not the first one, and you won't be the last one."
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
yeah. But my biggest thing was I disappointed my dad. Like
Mhm.
I didn't think about anybody else. I didn't really care about anybody else. All I could think was my dad is gonna be so disappointed.
Mhm.
And when I told him, and he said, "You're not the first one, and you're not going to be the last," that just made, like, right now it's about to bring me to tears, because
Mhm.
I felt that love. I felt that
Mhm.
support. That no matter what I go through in my life, my dad was going to have my back.
Right, right, right. And that's the beauty of it. I can relate exactly to what you were saying, but when you hear that, it's a sense of comfort. You still mentally, you still go through because at the end of the day, we don't want to disappoint our dad.
Right.
I'm a daddy's girl.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm a daddy's girl. And I think I wasn't worried about the church people. I knew they was going to, I knew they were going to beat me up. I knew they were, but I wasn't worried about that part. I was just more worried about the disappointment, of disappointing my dad, and, once he got over the initial shock.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, oh my God, what? You did what?
With who?
You did what? Yeah. Yeah, Dad, you know where babies come from. Stop lying.
Once he got over that, I will never forget, him and my mom were just like, they embraced, and not only they embraced me once, because people don't realize that as preacher's kid, you know, it's more than just a one day of torture. We end up torturing ourselves 9 months and some change.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So throughout that whole, I will never forget, throughout that whole 9 months, I was living at home with my parents, and every day, my dad, he will embrace me. At night I will cry, I will go in their room and I'll just sit I never forget it. I will always sit at the side of mom. And mom just has this thing where she knew when something is wrong, and she'll just roll over. And all I kept saying was, "Please forgive me." And my dad was like, "Baby, we've been forgave you, but you need to forgive yourself.
Right, right, exactly.
You're not the first, and you're not going to be the last. And you need to forgive yourself so that you can be healthy, so the baby can be healthy, because
Right,
the stress and the torture and the torment you're doing to yourself is not good."
absolutely.
And he would just embrace me, and of course he would pray, and
Of course
you
he
know
gonna pray.
he go, "Honey, my daddy, he Lord, let me tell you
Now
something."
let me tell you something. Bishop Copeland gonna pray. I don't care. You can come up, because I know the last few times I've been in service with him, and I'm acting like a nut as usual, and he's like laughing at me and picking on me about some stuff that my dad said. But before I walk away, he said, "Let me pray for you right quick."
Yep,
I
that
said,
is his
"All
thing.
righty then."
That is his thing, and that's what he would do. But like you said, that was just so comforting. And throughout that whole ordeal, he protected me.
Yes, yes.
You know, he made me feel, he began to make me feel good as a person, that, I'm not a failure. I'm not a loser. I'm not a disappointment. He began to make me feel, that I
Yeah.
wasn't. And I was just like, dang, my dad is just swell.
My dad is the bomb,
you
period. He's
know?
like, he's my hero, he's my support,
Yeah, yeah.
and when I did it, like, the second time, I was like, oh my God, like, it was 12 and a half years between my kids. And when I got pregnant with the second one, I was like, holy God, here I go again. And then I was like, I can't tell them this. Like, I don't even know how I'm going to say this. And I remember I finally said it,
Mhm.
and Daddy put his head down. I saw him put his head down, and I just lost it. Like
Yeah.
I knew I was like, oh my God. And when he finally looked up at me, he said, "You're gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine. The baby's gonna be fine, and we're gonna get through this just like we did before."
Mhm.
And everybody else was, had other stuff to say. Most people, someone even commented like, what is Bishop Green going to preach about now? And he was like, oh, that's a dumb question. I'm going to preach the same thing I've been preaching. Like, why would I stop preaching what I'm preaching? And I remember he told this one person that he walked up on me talking about me and questioning what he was going to preach about. And he says, I'm going to preach the same thing I was preaching when you were out there doing what you had no business doing,
Mhm.
and I had to cover you and keep you covered and prayed for and all that. That's the same thing I'm going to preach. Of course,
Mhm.
after that, they like,
Yep.
they didn't
Yep.
see him standing behind them. But, our daddy's always got our back.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I want to turn the corner just a little bit.
Okay.
And I want you to be honest.
Okay.
Do you feel or have you ever felt any resentments regarding being a PK with regard to the church? Like, for example, my biggest resentment has been the amount of time that my parents had to devote to the church left them very little time for family time.
Right.
And that bothered me as a child, and still right now, I'm almost 60 years old, and I still got an attitude about it.
Mhm.
Because, because, because every time I would call, I would need to do something, or I wanted them to go somewhere and they couldn't go because somebody at the church had an issue. And I was thinking, well, they call
Mhm.
their own mom and dad sometimes. But I never said that. So have you have you ever had any resentments about being a PK?
Um, I don't think I won't say I have resentment. I know now that I am older, um, I get a little upset because I do remember, times, and I still remember now. I'm still seeing them now where they would labor with people, that took them from the home because such and such need them,
Right.
such and such is in a jam, or we can't do this because he's gone to the church to meet with so and so, and I'm like, man, we about to go to Bonanza now. We can't go.
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
mean,
Exactly.
like it's Tuesday night. Kids eat free on Tuesday night. I'm sorry. I said I was gonna behave myself.
But I knew you weren't. That's why I invited you. Because I knew you weren't going to behave.
So what they mean? We can't go. We gonna go. We going later. What's up?
I'm gonna get there, the
So
food is all dry.
so mommy be like, well, we're gonna go ahead and he'll meet us over there. By the time he got there, we already like almost finished. We're eating
Yeah.
ice cream, whatever. So it used to make me really angry because I'd be like, well, how come, every time such and such is in a jam, daddy and mommy always got to go. We always slacking. We always missing out on X, Y, and
Right.
Z. And then as I'm getting older, they still are committed and dedicated to the ministry and to it to the people, and it kind of rubs me the wrong way when once people get what they need, or their um
You go.
their emergency at that particular moment is met and dealt with.
Yeah.
My parents are they don't see them no more. They
That's right.
gone, or
Absolutely.
people got so much to say about them. But I'm thinking to myself, but I remember them leaving midnight to go to the church to pray for
Hello.
you.
I know that's right. And
I
I
need
remember them
when my
not having money to do things that they wanted to do with family because they gave money to somebody else to do something for their family.
yeah, and I remember one time I would have in my adult year, because as I'm getting older, I'm very vocal with my feelings and my emotions and how I feel. When I was younger, I
Yeah.
used to cry. I used to
Right.
cry a lot.
Right.
But now that I'm older, I'm able to put words with my emotions. I'm able
Yeah.
to tell you. So I remember talking to my dad. I was very angry, very upset, very vocal. And he looked at me. He said, "Oh, baby, oh, you got to let that go." He said, I never knew you felt like that. And I'm
Right,
like, Dad, it just bothers me because, you guys are not young, and you have labored and you have sacrificed and you have given up so much. And, when is your time,
right.
that people begin to show appreciation? And he will always say, baby, you got to realize though, I really didn't do it for them. I did it for the kingdom. You got to remember who called you.
Yeah,
And he always say that to me. He was like, this is what God has called me to do. Whether people stay, go, whether they
yeah.
talk good of me, whether they talk bad of me, my intentions are good. And I do my, he said, and he always say, I do the works of my father.
And the thing is, like, we, to some extent, even as children, we understood that they were working for the Lord, even we,
Yeah,
if we didn't. But they were our parents.
yeah.
But we saw them at home when they would be crying and praying for somebody. We saw them at home when, like you say, they couldn't participate in family
Mhm.
functions because somebody was always pulling at them for something. And so the older I got, it's like, they were always on call. And then in their latter years, I was thinking, just as you were talking about, they have literally, your parents and my parents, and I know there are other people's parents, but we're not talking about them right this minute, um, have literally given their lives for ministry. I
Yeah.
mean, physically, their bodies are worn out. Emotionally, they have like sometimes just been exhausted to the end where they had nothing left to give. And I looked at my parents in their latter years and how sick they were. And some of these people that they literally gave their life for, these people sucked the life out of them. They were not there for them in the end when they needed them. When my mother had Alzheimer's and she um, got to the point where she couldn't even feed herself, we couldn't even get people to come and help us to sit with her for an hour to give us a break or something like that. These same people that, for years talked about how much they loved them and how much Pastor and Apostle mean to them. And I
Right.
remember the week before my dad died, one of the ladies from the church had come to the house and she needed, I think it was like $1,500 to do something for one of her children
Mhm.
that was in a jam. And my father went all through all kinds of motions, made all kind of moves to give her that money. And the next week he died.
Mm.
And this same person, and this is just one example because there's a whole lot of them, um, decided, they didn't want nobody in the family to continue leading the church. So they all got together, had a meeting, and signed this letter that they didn't want us to lead the ministry anymore. And so I don't care how much you say, oh, well, they were doing the work of the Lord and they did it because they knew God had called them to that. As a child, I don't care what age that child is, it hurts you and it angers you to know
Yeah.
that your parents are being used like that and have been. Our parents, your parents, and mine have pastored for 40, 50 years almost, and literally worn their bodies down in ministry. And when they're at the point where they need to be held up, uh, for people to not do that, it hurts. And I
Yeah.
don't care how much you love God, there's an anger inside of you because you know what your parents have done. And so I wanted to talk about that because I've talked to a lot of preachers' kids in the last few years who say the same thing. Like they had these feelings, they grew up with them, but they were afraid to say anything.
Mhm.
And then as it just stayed there and stayed there until they finally let it out. And I want to ask you this. I remember, okay, we know that we missed out on a lot of family time because we never went on a family vacation. The entire time that my parents were alive, we never had a family vacation. Never. Anytime we ever went anywhere, it was church related. And then maybe we did something like I remember we went to Tennessee one time. So of course we went to some tourist attractions or whatever. But we were in Tennessee for revival. So it really wasn't a family vacation. It was like we had revival at night and the only day we are gonna do something. So I grew up with all of that. And then you have to deal with the jealousy of some of the people in the church because they feel like their children should get some of the same benefits as you get. And I remember telling a lady this one time, you're gonna laugh at this. She was my nephew or one of my grandsons, one was running all around church. Service was over, but they was all here, there, and everywhere. And my mom, like your children do. And my mom had had a candy bowl sitting up in the pulpit.
Uh-huh.
And my grandson was going up there to get a piece of candy. And one of the ladies in the church, I had watched her watching him. I was just waiting for her to say something. And
Mhm.
she's like, "Oh my God, get down from there. You don't have no right up there." Blah, 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 going on and on and on. What makes y'all think y'all so special? I'm so sick of it. I said, hold on a minute. First of all, this child is like 3 or 4 years old. He don't even know what you're talking about. So all this, what you're saying here is stuff that you've been wanting to say to
Yes,
us.
yes,
So you need
yes.
to say that to me and don't say that to him. I
Mhm.
said, but here's the thing. There's no need of you being jealous because there are certain privileges that the first family has. I said, who's jealous that Chelsea? I think Bill Clinton was president then because I remember saying, are you jealous at Chelsea Clinton because she's walking around the White House and you can't walk around the White House? She got so hot at me, girl. She just walked off. But that burned me because it's been years of don't say nothing to them because the pastor don't want you to say nothing to them, and they think they special and all that. Well, we are special. Like, we were born into this family, and there's certain privileges that we have. And so that burned me up for years also. But I want to ask you about the privileges. Like, do you feel like there's certain things that you have gained as your father, because your father was a preacher, certain lessons you learned, certain things that molded your life to make you the woman that you are today?
Um,
Why
yeah,
your eyes all glassy? Big cry, baby.
you know me. I'm not gonna do it now. Because nobody's gonna talk about me. Nope.
You're my girl, though.
So I'm gonna say yeah. I think there's a lot of things with my father as well as my mother that has molded me into the person that I am today. Definitely being determined. Um, Watching my parents. th- when they started the ministry, of course, I was not born, but I came along, and they still had their struggle when I was born. And as a little girl, I watched my parents, I watched my mother, I watched them suffer, I watched them endure, but they were so determined. And I think that has been something that has impacted me as
Yes,
an individual to be determined, regardless what goes on in life. You pick up and you keep moving. You pick up
right.
striving, never feel defeated, even in failure, never feel defeated, but you keep going. You keep going. I think them being determined, watching them has really impacted me. My mom and my dad, they are just, to me, they're like the most strongest people in the world, because they have been hit from every angle that you can ever think of. And they never folded. I know they felt like it. I know they wanted to because I watched them from the behind scene. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly, exactly.
So I watched them. I watched them cry. I watched them pray together. I watched them believe God, and then I watched the human side of them where they wept,
Yeah,
where they cry from a broken heart. But at the end of the day, they were able to come together and pull themselves together and say, you know what? Hey, it's you and I and God,
yeah,
and that determining, that strength. I
yes,
think that's
yes,
why I think that's why I feel like I have become so strong and a person that is able to endure, because in my own struggle, in my own life situation, there's been times where I wanted to fold. There's been times where I just wanted to quit. There's been times I just wanted to tell people, you know where to where to go.
I understand. I totally understand. Absolutely. I understand.
However, I'm always reminded that I come from a very strong, tight-knit family.
Right.
And, and my mother always tell me, and I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna do it.
If you feel like crying, it's okay. It's okay. Seriously.
But my mom and my dad, they always tell me, because I'm the baby, of course, and I've always been the person. I cry. I'll cry in a drop of a hat. When I can't get things right, or when things don't go my way, or when I feel like I messed up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But as I've gotten older, they have, and I'm glad they're here to see this. This is what blesses me, Jamie. I'm glad they're able to see this, that their baby girl has really like climb the pinnacle of challenges and grab life, what I'm
Yes.
saying? And
Yes.
just been riding the wave. And they
Yes.
watch me through my challenges. They watch me through my ups and downs, my hurts and my disappointments. And
Yes.
and they've seen me be determined. They've seen that strength that I'm
Yes.
sure they prayed and hoped that I would have.
Absolutely.
My mother always tell me, baby girl, you were so strong. You're like you have blossomed. You just, and I'm like, really, mom? She was like, yes. She's like, you were just like, you have just really grabbed hold of life and been like, you know what,
That's
whatever
awesome.
way, I'm gonna just keep going. And
Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
think it's because of my dad. I really do. I really believe that it's because of him, me watching him, me watching the human side of him, but also watching the fact that he's able to really endure,
Right. Right. Right.
has determination. It has made me who the person I am today, and I hold on to that even when days don't feel, there are days that I do feel like giving in. I'm reminded. I'm
Right.
reminded of where I come from. I'm reminded of who I am. I'm reminded of my legacy. I'm reminded of, the
Yes.
life that the family line I'm part of.
Right.
And it's just a blessing, Jamie. It is. I just,
I totally understand. I mean, it's the strength that we come from. It's the roots. Is
yeah,
the shoulders that we're
foundation.
standing on. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we can't give up. Even when we get off track, somehow or another we get back on track. And I know a lot of times in the latter years with all my health challenges and this, that, and the other, I've just felt like, oh my God, just forget it. I'm like tired. I just don't want to do this anymore. And I can hear something that my mother said or something that my father said, and it gives me a push to go a little bit further.
Yeah.
And if we did not have the parents that we had, I think we would not have survived a lot of the things that we survived because we wouldn't had a point. We wouldn't have a point of reference where, because
Right.
I asked my mom one time, I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna get ready to wind it up because I don't want, because I can talk and talk and talk when it's about our parents. But
Right.
I remember asking her one time, I said, there was this young lady that came to the church and she came for maybe a month. And then she asked my mother to co-sign for her to get an apartment. And mom was getting ready to do it. And I was like, Mom, why do you keep doing this? Like, first of all, you don't even know this woman. Um, and like you give people money, they come to you and they say, I need money to pay my electricity, blah, blah, blah. You give them the money and then you don't see them again anymore. Why do you keep doing that? And she said to me, one of the reasons I do it is because I know that your father and I won't always be here.
Mm.
And there will come a time when my children need something. And I pray that the seeds I have planted by blessing other people, that God will send somebody to bless my children. And
Right.
sometimes, even since they've been gone, when I've hit those rough spots and I don't have what I need to, whether it's money or food or the medicine or I just whatever, then out of the blue, somebody will hit me up and say, I want to send you something. I want to do something for you. And I know that those are answers to prayers that my parents prayed,
Right.
that are still being answered long after they're gone. And
Yeah.
that is one of the things that we have to be grateful for. We have so many things to be grateful for, but we have parents, and especially our fathers, who have covered us
Yes.
and
Yeah.
prayed for us times we didn't even know they were praying.
No.
And those prayers are what is keeping us going right now.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful for that. I know there are times when we may have disappointed them,
Right.
but they never walked away from us. They never turned their backs on us.
Right.
And that is one of the reasons why I fight and why I continue, even when I feel like this is it, I'm done, I can't take no more. And my mouth is saying that, but in my heart, I know I'm not going to quit because
Yeah.
I can't quit. I'm James Green's daughter. I can't quit.
That's right. That's right.
And you can't quit because you're George Copeland.
That's right.
Like,
That's right. And that's what I have
seriously.
to tell myself. And like you said, our mouth, because God knows my mouth says it all the time. This is it. I'm done. I can't do it. But in my heart, like you said, I can't do it. I'm George. I'm George and Susie Q's daughter.
Exactly. I'm James and Essence, girl. What you talking about?
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. I gotta get myself together. I gotta get myself together. Even while I'm crying, getting dressed, I'm getting
Yeah,
myself together.
that's right. All right, baby girl, I'm going to get ready to go, but I have one more question for you that we're going to close this out.
Okay.
What is your greatest desire for your father at this point in his life?
Um, my greatest desire, one, I have several. I'll just give you a few because of the time. One of my greatest desire is that my dad can not retire, but be able to enjoy the fruit of his labor.
Exactly.
And I'm not gonna, well, I keep saying I'm not, but I know I am. My dad is not a spring chicken anymore. He's up there in age. And I want him to be able to enjoy the ministry and not have to go, 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 go. You know, um, be pulled on, uh, be on quite of such a demand
Yeah.
because he's needed. I want him to be able to enjoy his children, be able to enjoy his grandchildren, be able to enjoy his great grand, and just enjoy life, be able to look at, wow, look what God has done. And I'm able to see it, and I'm able to relax, and I'm able to enjoy it.
Yes.
That is one of my greatest desire, is for him to just enjoy out of 50 some years
Yes.
doing this, being able to just enjoy it. Just be able to just really, really just sit back and enjoy it. That's just my greatest desire. You
I
know,
absolutely, I feel that in my soul because that was my desire for my parents. And I think that's one of the things that hurt me the most and took me so long to bounce back from it because they did not get to enjoy their latter years. And
yeah,
when they died, they were still struggling and suffering and, um, sick in their body and still being pulled on.
right.
Um, and I just felt like I just wish they were able to retire and just travel and just, enjoy what, they put out so much,
Too much.
planted so
Yeah.
many seeds. Like I just wanted them to be able to enjoy that harvest, but it didn't work out that way. But I just thank you for joining me today. I've enjoyed this conversation. I was hoping we would do more laughing than crying, but I think we did a little both. We've done a little both. But I really appreciate you coming and talking to me because this is something that's very dear to my heart. And I know a lot of preachers' kids, but especially daughters who, like your dad is your first boyfriend. He's the first guy you fall in love with.
The first
Um,
man that tells you he loves you.
the first man that tells you how special you are.
And how
And
beautiful you are.
wow, when you're born and other people say you look like a rat, your dad is like, oh, she's so beautiful.
Look, you already, I think I told you about that story about me, right?
How you got your name?
Yes. They thought I was going to be a boy.
Okay. Why did they think you was gonna be a boy?
Listen. Listen. Look, I keep telling the saints, listen, y'all, look, y'all better go get them sonograms.
Yeah, I think Bishop still got an attitude about that. That was
Because
funny to me.
he bought all these boys' clothes, and the room was nothing but boys' stuff. And here comes this bouncing 7 pounds and some ounces little girl. And of course,
Hey, put it
and of
back, put
course,
it back.
of course, my brother was just livid. He was just beyond himself.
Because he wanted another he wanted a brother.
So, and so when my dad tells the story, he goes, "But no, I didn't get a boy, but I got a beautiful, bouncy, healthy girl."
But
And
in
to
the
this
back of his mind, he's still thinking, dag nabbit,
day,
I didn't want this
another,
girl.
another girl, 3 girls, really?
That is too cute. Wow. But again, like I said, thank you for joining me, taking time
Thank
out.
you
I know
for
you're a
having
busy
me.
little
I
beaver.
appreciate it.
Um, and I'm proud of you. I watch it. I don't like communicate with you often, but I got my eyes on you, and I'm very proud of the woman that you have become, the mother that you have become, the wife that you have become, the businesswoman. I'm very proud of you, and I want you to be encouraged because this show, this month we're talking about fatherhood, but the format for this show that I want to build on is a purpose-driven format. Like I want people to always leave encouraged to continue moving toward their destiny, fulfilling their purpose. And I want to tell you that you are doing a great job and just keep it up.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Jamie. I appreciate it. I enjoyed it. I hope I behaved because I can really go off the grid. But
I think you did very well. I think I did very well because you're a really bad influence on me.
I think
So
I think we're bad influence on each other.
I think we did very well.
Good. Yes, I think so too.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. I love you.
I
Thank you for
love
having
you.
me.
Okay.
Have a
Talk
good
to you
night.
soon.
All
Okay.
right. Bye-bye.